principle of territorial integrity. After the summit we organized in Paris that led to the Paris Pact for the Peoples and the Planet, a number of things that we launched have been endorsed here. And what I would like to tell you, what is important here, is that this agenda we've been promoting for a number of years has moved forward on the occasion of this G20 in India. First of all, what we advocated in Paris and what led to this Paris Pact for the Peoples and the Planet was reiterated with many African countries ahead of this summit. They signed together with France a piece in which we were expressing our support for the pact. Let me remind you of the 4 underlying principles. We need not choose between the fight against poverty and the fight for the planet. Second, it is for each country to choose its own path with the support of the international community. Thirdly, we need a major leap when it comes to financing, and all of that very much presided over the conclusions on this topic. When it comes to mobilizing international financing to tackle poverty and climate change, this G20 acknowledged a number of developments. First of all, we exceeded the $100 billion of reallocation of SDRs. It is in 2020, at the time that we decided with the IMF to issue some new SDRs. Then, when we worked on financing the African economies, we agreed to reallocate $100 billion to Africa. And now, and this is the work we undertook back in 2020, it is at last generally $100 billion that are being reallocated. And France did more than what it was requested to do. We reallocated 40% of our SDRs. So I, of course, call upon all countries to continue and, most importantly, to deliver on what they committed to be doing. And next, this year, we will reach the target of $100 billion to finance climate transition in developing countries. And in June, we had a report in Paris telling us that we were about to reach that target. It is a commitment that was made in 2015, and we exerted more pressure so that we could do it. Third element, we could see that what was done in Paris, and remember we had this first meeting of joint financing, all multilateral developing banks attending with the major financial institutions. Well, we got some results. We're increasing the risks taken by our developing banks and development banks, and we're increasing substantially the public finance simply by taking more risks with the existing mechanisms. And this is something that was agreed upon in Paris in June. And at the G20, we all agreed upon this commitment taken in Paris with the goal of having $200 billion of private finance for developing countries. So all of that was initiated in Paris in June and has been approved by the G20. So that's an endorsement of the 4 Ps pact. But we want to do more in terms of efficiency, and this is also a commitment that we made in Paris. First of all, we support a deep reform of global governance. This is the Security Council, but as well the World Bank and the IMF. They have to reflect today's reality and in terms of demography and economy as well. And then we want to increase the available tools. That's why we want to replenish the World Bank, and France is supporting that so that the emerging countries have a greater role to play. And we want, of course, to increase as well what is allocated to the issue of climate change. and we want some further commitments on behalf of the emerging countries to phase out coal. Next, the IMF. Here again, we expect some greater commitments by the emerging countries when it comes to restructuring the debt of African countries. We stand ready to do more, and we said it today. So it is the very same agenda, a greater financing mobilization around the world. And let me tell you that France upgraded its commitments, and we reached 0.5% of our GDP allocated to development projects, and we also want the same to happen at the international level. And this is the reason why we committed to the replenishment of IFA, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, and the meeting will be taking place in December. And I would like to thank President Alvaro Lario of IFAD for being with us today. We need IFAD because IFAD is very much fighting to increase the productivity and the efficiency of the agriculture systems all around the world, in particular given that they are mostly impacted by the war. And then we expressed our support to a number of initiatives taken in Paris or in Nairobi because this massive financing leap also requires some additional resources. So we need to find some new international resources. And together with President Ruto, and allow me to thank him for the work done in Nairobi. So with President Ruto, we agreed to set up a task force on international taxation, and I commend his initiatives for a new kind of carbon tax with a genuine price. So it is the very same agenda and that we are working on climate change. And on Friday, the progress report of the Paris Accord was published, and we're not on the right trajectory. And the G20 is a key player in this. Today, we acknowledge a goal of tripling the production of renewable energy. And we also have the same ambition for low-carbon technology, including the nuclear energy. And we're also committed to developing a major vast rail corridor between India, Saudi Arabia and Europe, and in order to transport green hydrogen and to speed up the greening of our industries. But this is not enough. Let me tell you that I'm personally very concerned by some sort of a rising state of mind, including within the G20, on the issue of climate. First of all, it is too easy to say for some of the emerging countries that it is only for the wealthiest country to bear the responsibility. The Europeans are facing their responsibility. We have the only credible international commitments with the Green Deal and the Fit for 55. We're the only ones who set some regulations, new regulations, in order to reach carbon neutrality in 2050 and the goals that were set for 2030. I'm very pleased that some join us with this 2050 target, but at the moment only the Europeans have set the tools. We have the 100 billion commitment, as said in June in Paris and reiterated here. But many countries need to do more efforts. One cannot say that we will achieve the Paris Agreement goals without phasing out fossil fuels. And this is very much at the heart of the strategy that we're working on together with our partners for the jet piece, partnerships for just energy transition together with South Africa, Senegal and Indonesia. And this is very much what we've been discussing with a number of partners, including Prime Minister Modi. But more generally, with all emerging countries, we need to phase out coal, and much faster than we are doing. And we need to work on phasing out oil as well, because I can hear some telling us that beyond 2040, 2045, we could still live with oil while comply with the goals set in the Paris Agreement. But I think this is not the case. This is not true. I know it's difficult. It is troubling for a number of emerging developing countries. Nonetheless, we have to look at science. Lastly, I would like to tell you that we had a chance to talk about technology. On artificial intelligence, France has a double purpose. We want to develop innovation and investments and make sure there is no technological and digital divide on the issue of artificial intelligence. We want all of the G20 countries to have access to it for their development. And in addition, it is absolutely necessary to regulate these technologies, make sure that there is no fake or manipulation of information, and anything that would threaten our democracies. So we support the idea of international regulations, and just like we did on minimal taxation and in other topics, we work together with the OECD, and together with Canada in particular, we launched a partnership for international artificial intelligence, and together with the support of the OECD, and the OECD can gather the international community beyond its members, and it is very much necessary for the purpose of regulating IA. And once again, I would like to commend the Indian presidency of the G20. Brazil will take over, and they have our full confidence. We will work together with them closely on a number of topics, protection of forestry, food sovereignty, social justice. And as you know, since 2018, we've been strongly advocating these topics.